Tomorrow, I was thinking that was
Okay,
tomorrow.
that's
Tomorrow,
good.
I have to go to work,
Yeah.
and then I'll be out till.
So,
I worked all day.
might be what I'm toying with the idea.
Oh, okay, so you
But,
got, okay.
yeah, it's
Very
busy.
good.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting
The shops, I'll be out.
Right, good.
So, and it's
Hi,
different.
Simone.
Yeah.
People ask me, is it different living out here? I said, absolutely it is.
It looks like you're setting at the
Oh, yeah,
second
it
one
is.
over.
It's nice. We have a nice home.
Yeah.
But,
How long you been up there?
maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm down here so much for businesses.
Yeah.
I might as well, in case that's true. That's why I'm in bed here.
Hey. Did I listen to that? It's on my list, I promise. I promise.
I just want to make sure I have it.
No, there's just in front of you there. That only goes so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I wondered who left this on my desk.
I tried to give it to Anna, but she didn't want it. All right, so maybe it was your husband.
What was that?
That briefcase.
You didn't want this
I think
briefcase
it was
with
your
my book in
husband.
it.
I gave it, I said, this is Anna's. He said, no, it's not. I said, oh, okay. Anyway, as long as you don't have the latest shoreline zoning ordinance, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Wednesday, you got Wednesday.
Oh,
Granddaughter got.
how are you? Doing very good.
I think it's cool.
Good to see you.
What you been up to?
Friday, I got work.
Real estate and actually physical work.
Oh, yeah?
I don't think Paul, so
We have a
50-50
best
chance.
son graduating, you know, so I got a laundry list of, you will get this done by this day.
You could ask for an alternate.
Keep mine.
No, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We got a white tag on the desk.
Okay. Good one. How are you? What color? So, here?
Brown and white.
I hope you won't, right?
Oh, I've got a lot. I'm over it. I think I got lines from it.
Oh, really?
Last week, and just trying to stay on top of it. Yeah.
Yes, it's all right.
Yeah, for like a month. Which is, it's just to get out in front of it. Like, the hardest part's dealing with it. Yeah, so, I didn't even show it like that, but it's just trying to. You're Baxter. I don't know. We were out, like, we got caught.
Steve, I have no idea what happened in my envelope.
What's happening?
I have a suspicion that Bob might have picked it up with stuff and just can't remember what he did with it. And his truck is being worked on. It might be in his truck.
The dog didn't need it?
The
dog didn't need it?
No, and he didn't need it either, but I think he just forgot it.
I just didn't have time to get another one.
Oh, that's okay.
Maybe you were on the
Oh,
chair.
sure.
Well, yeah, but.
You went to
What was it, Bill?
That's true, that's true.
I'd like to call the meeting to order for the planning board meeting of June the 10th, 2019. Will you please join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are missing one regular member tonight, so that means one of you guys will be white. Let him vote.
He's the first alternate. I don't have any power over it.
Did you pay him?
No, you paid me. No money exchange.
All right, just checking. Okay. The next item is the adoption. That's something new that's going to be on the agenda every week or every meeting. There's another item that I'll talk about in just a second that I want to see on the, actually two items that I'd like to see on the agendas. So, but right now I will have a motion to adopt the minutes of the meeting of May the 13th. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to adopt.
Is there a second? We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Remember, we've got the system on, so if you would please, when you vote, say aye.
And raise your hand, too.
Raise your hand and say aye so that those at home can join in the excitement of the meeting. So all those in favor of adopting the minutes of the meeting May the 13th, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let's see what happens when you can't vote.
No voice.
I have a couple of comments that I want to make, but I think I'm going to wait until later on in the meeting. I think I'll wait until later on in the meeting. Before we actually get down to the tasks of tonight, I would hope that everybody has had a chance to see the insert. For those that aren't familiar, this is the town's bicentennial celebration year. And this was actually put together by the Rolling Thunder. So we thank them for that kind of support. And inside, on the center section, there is a calendar for next week, and next week looks like a busy week. Now, what I try to do is make arrangements with somebody to make sure there's not a whole lot of rain. We never know what's going to happen. But the festivities really begin on Saturday at the library at 11 o'clock. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. Could be rather an exciting experience. The first part of the meeting, we have a public hearing. And I'm assuming that's why some of you are here, maybe. The first item for the public hearing is proposed changes to the house occupations ordinances. Hopefully you've had a chance to read that. Is there anybody that wishes to speak opposed to those changes? We've talked about this the last couple of meetings, right, Steve?
The last meeting, we approved that they should go to public hearing.
So are there any comments, either pro or con, about the approval of that? Okay. The second one is the home-based enterprise ordinance. Again, we discussed that at the last meeting. Any comments, questions, concerns? My goodness, we're quiet. Okay, hearing none, I would close the public hearing and now I'll call those to a vote. The first item is to vote on the proposed change in the home.
Can't use it.
Oh, goodness. Okay. It was Washington, D.C. calling in case there was any questions.
But you didn't.
Should have answered.
I should have answered. The first item is to vote on the proposed changes for the home occupation ordinance. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we vote on the proposed changes to the home occupation ordinance and to send them to the,
So you're voting to approve them?
yes.
Okay, both of them?
I can do the both of them if you want to do both of them. one shot.
Let's do them separately, just
Okay.
case.
Okay, well, yeah, we could vote to approve the home occupation ordinance. And
Okay.
approve it and send it to the council.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? And everybody understands what those changes are, basically. Okay, all those in favor of approving them, and what happens after this process is it gets sent to the council. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. I'll take a vote on the proposed changes to the home-based enterprise ordinances.
Need a motion to accept the proposed changes to the home-based enterprise ordinance?
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the ordinance as proposed and then forward it to the council, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Okay. Under new business, Steve, you want to start with the first one, just in case he has to leave in a hurry?
With any new business?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bert, can start with that. Pre-application conference for things that he would like to do for a training site down on Council Rapid.
Several years ago, 5 maybe, I don't know, time goes by quickly. It's been at least 5 years, the council voted to give us 2 acres down there to build a training area on. An acre on either side of the road that goes into the police range. The one on the south side of it, I guess the east side of the road, we had cleared of all the brush and stuff was removed. And I don't know, I have the drawing here, it probably doesn't make much sense if you're an engineer, which I'm not. And tried to copy satellite picture and it didn't copy very well. It's kind of, but basically what we want to do is, right now we have what training site we have is down below the transfer station. And DEP has said we're within the flood zone, and we got to get out of there, plus we're where it was dumped 100 years ago, and that might be a problem. And it just goes on and on and on with those folks.
Thank you.
But they, what we have at that location is
Thank you.
we have a boxcar, an old boxcar that we use for burn building, if you will. And it has hatches on the top that we can open to clear the smoke out, cool it off in case it gets too warm in there when people are in. And what we propose by moving it up here is that we get DEP off our back, one thing. And it'll be up where it's more user-friendly to us. There's not much room down there. Put 2 trucks in there and they're sitting one right on top of the other. There's no place to go. Excuse me. So what our proposal is on the side next to the reuse building is we also have a Class B burn set up there, which is a 500-gallon LP tank that is piped with pipes coming out of it that we can set a fire and teach the crew how to go in and put out a propane tank fire, basically. It's hooked up to another 500-gallon tank that's full of LP that we can build a fire with. We have a ground-mounted confined space tower there. Call it a tower. It's ground-mounted. It's only this far off the ground. Basically, what it is approximately a 15-foot round grain bin, metal grain bin. And we can go through the sides, we can go through the bottom, or we can go through the top. We proposed 2 pads down there to do car burns on, car fires on. And the reason for the pads, it makes cleanup a lot easier. It's a lot easier to push that stuff off and get rid of it if it's not mixed in the sand. The other one is for vehicle extrication. And again, it's easier to clean up the glass and if it's not mixed in the sand. The other thing, if it's a nice rainy day, we don't spend 2 hours training and 4 hours cleaning up equipment because it's been dragged through the mud. And that gets old, that's why we stopped going to junkyards. It seems so every time we went to a junkyard to do that, it came in and rained. And we trained for 3 hours in the morning and spent 4 hours after lunch cleaning up equipment to get rid of the mud. Proposed 2 structures down there. One of them would be a classroom storage area. That's not going to happen for a long time unless somebody dies and leaves us some money. Buildings are expensive and we don't have any money. The other one would be a 20-foot by 20-foot tower to train ladder training. Basically, this would be, you would use old electric poles, build 2 platforms, one probably 12 foot off the ground, the other one, actually it had 3 stories, so one do a 2nd story. One of the problems we have is getting to that 3rd story to have training, like with Newport with that ladder, to have someplace to go where you have to get up in the air and to have credited aerial ladder service, it has to be at least 3 stories. And for ISO and all those folks, the story is considered 12 feet. You know. The other side, out next to the road, we have a 5,000 gallon tank we want to put in the ground to have some place to pump from, so they can put a suction hose in it, pump out of the tank. We had proposed to put a hydrant across the road. I don't know that that'll ever happen or not, but rather than leave a hose on the ground across the road going into the transfer station, if the hydrant was on that side, we could do our hydrant training on that side also. Again, the buildings will be it'll be a while before they go in. We would like to get the burn box moved up there this summer, if at all possible, and the confined space tower up there and set up. The 2 pads, again, money, we're working on that piece of it. I guess one of my questions, I get several. One of the big ones, I've heard several rumors, and I know rumors are, but unfortunately, this one is an expensive rumor if it comes to fruition, that we'd be required to fence it with an 8-foot fence so you couldn't see it from the road. 600 feet of 8-foot fence would be pretty pricey. Something you couldn't see from the road.
Any questions for the chief?
What kind of pad, Vernon? Is it a gravel pad or concrete pad?
Concrete.
So a 200 by 200 concrete?
No.
Just a building?
No, the pad, if you look at, read my eyes on it.
10 by 30.
Yeah, my 13 there.
Yeah.
The vehicle extrication, which is number 6, would be a 20 by 30. And the fire pad would be a 10 by 30 on the other. I mean, those would be quite expensive in themselves. Concrete's not cheap anymore.
So what's that in around here? Is that a gravel pad in around the concrete?
The whole, we just leave it as it is. The rest of it would just be as it is, that sandy mess that's down there. It's not really sand. I don't know what it is, whatever the soil that's there now. We would have to pour a pad to set the full propane tank on. They don't like those just sitting out on by themselves. Rock tends to move them around.
Would you mind, with reference to where the school bus is that you've used down there, correct? Where would
That
this?
whole piece between the road that goes into the rifle range, that gravel road, and we'd be about 100 feet back from the reuse building towards that gravel road where the edge of our stuff would be.
Okay, and are you required to put concrete pads wherever you are having something that you use for the training?
No, we're not.
I really don't know anything
No,
about
we're not
firefighting.
required, it's just one of those, it would make life simpler
Yeah,
and not make cleanup easier.
just keep the
make
cleanup, yeah.
clean up of the mess that we make when we burn a car, because I read something the other day that says these newer cars coming out, there are 300 pounds of actual burnable metal in one. And another 100 pounds of plastic that melts and makes a mess in the road. When we, if you do extrication on a car, you take out the windows and you break plastic and make sure there's nothing in there that's gonna blow up in your face when you cut it. It makes it a lot easier to keep that cleaned up if it was on a concrete pad than if it's in that sand.
Do you know what the cost would be for what you're needing?
I mean, it's not gonna all happen at once.
Right.
If we can get our Class B burn set up there this summer and our burn box, probably about all we did was get done. The proposed building and the tower, those are several years down the road, I'm guessing, just from a cost point.
Is the fire department planning to do any money-raising projects to fund
We
this?
do that at the Egg Festival and those kind of things, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Is this something that would be used just by Pittsfield or would other?
no, we try to train with the people that come to help us. Like Detroit, Burnham, Heartland, Newport. All the surrounding towns that we use for mutual aid would be coming in training with us.
So then my next question is, would they be willing to make some kind of a contribution to the development of this?
I don't know the answer to that. One of the things that we're going to have for competition is that Fairfield is building it big. They've already got their land all laid out. The town has authorized, I think, up to $1.1 million bond to build them a training area. So they're already, and they got a grant last week from, I don't remember now, Maine Fire Training or something, that they got a $300,000 grant to help them along.
So you mentioned that there may or may not be a fence around that.
Well, the rumor, and again, rumor, but this one is expensive, that there was a bunch of people that if we got permission to put it in there, they were gonna hound us to have it fenced so it couldn't be seen from the road.
Okay.
You're talking an 8-foot solid fence of some sort, whether it be a cedar fence or chain link with that plastic in it or whatever it is. But no matter what it is, it's gonna be expensive.
So if there's no fence around it, how are the, there's a liquid propane tank. Like how are that specifically, the Class B burn liquid propane tank, how is that secured if it's not fenced in? Does it have its own separate kind of locking system?
The hatch is locked on it. We've never had any problem with the full one. Somebody stole our empty one that's all the piping on it a couple of years ago. We had to go get another one built. But nobody's ever bothered the full one, and you can't even, where it is now, you can't see it from the road. They could get down in there and load it in a truck, you wouldn't even know it. So. Right. But nobody's ever bothered that one, but they did steal the one with the piping on it.
Okay.
Would a fence be required, Steve, by code or ordinance?
Well, no, I don't believe it would by code or ordinance.
Was it if you're looking at that or looking at the transfer station?
Yeah.
Could a natural fence be something that would work, line of trees, evergreens?
Well, we left what on the corner of the road where it goes down to the range and down what trees were there, we left probably 25-foot buffer in there. We didn't clear out. Of course, then you run into that open field. So, I'm sure that would help break it up.
So,
The trouble with natural buffers is they tend to take over if you don't keep after them.
so we're trying to determine if he needs to do a full application here, or?
That's the purpose of tonight's, yes. Correct.
That's what it should, does it require a site plan review?
What's been your assessment thus far, Steve?
If you read that word for word, like if you read a legal document, sounds like you gotta have one.
Right, we required, I mean, if there's a structure on the property, we required one for the, right?
Well,
boat,
it's a use.
For the, right, for the boat launch. Correct. We require site plan review for the boat launch because of the building that was there. So the question becomes whether the tower and the potential build out of a classroom at this point would,
That's down the road though, isn't it?
I guess so, whether they'd have to come back for that. The tower's happening.
No.
Or the tower's not happening right away.
Probably not right off. I mean, it'll be a couple of years. You know, again, unless somebody comes forward and offers a whole bunch of free machine labor and stuff like that, you know.
Chief, is this something you see as a possibility? We start with one thing, 1 year, and then the next year?
Well, yeah, we'd like to get the stuff that's in the old pit down below the transfer station out of there, so we get rid of the EEP found in the transfer station,
Right.
which would be the railroad car, the LP tanks, the 2 LP tanks, and the confined space chamber. If we could get that done this year, we'd be happy.
That's a good start.
Good start.
And as far as a fire hydrant, I mean, I know this is probably not pertinent right now, but I don't assume that the water lines go down that far.
Oh, yeah, the water line, but it's on the opposite side of the road is the problem.
Right.
So to use it, we, gotta lay a line across the highway.
So nothing was stubbed over when they went to put the water line through to the property?
That doesn't seem like such a big deal to have to move
Well,
You would cut.
Scott's assessment was they do that thing where they do, they drill under the
Yeah, just
road,
directional, yeah, directional
over
water.
to the line and then put the hydrant in on the other side, but.
Expensive, what's that cost? Expensive. Expensive for my kid or expensive to? That's all relative there.
So, what are your wishes?
6, 7.
Well, if we have to do a site plan review, then we should do a site plan review.
I agree.
What's she saying?
Make a
If
motion.
we have to do a site plan
For a site plan
review, we
review.
should do one. So is there a motion on the floor?
Yes.
We have a motion. Is there a
A
second?
second.
Any further discussion?
So I'd love to discuss basis for that. Is it due to the plan for structures down the road? As far as what we're tasked with on the site plan review process?
I think that would be a good idea,
Any of those?
preemptively, just to, get it going, and maybe something we just build on with the fire department over the years.
So I guess the question, if Bernard were to revise his application, not including the proposed classroom and the ladder tower, would the rest of it require site plan review? I mean, might it be better for us to offer to Bernard that he acts 2 pieces that are speculative at this point and then come back at the time when those are, so that he can take care of what's needed to be done without having to go through a lot of regulatory process?
Just start with the pieces that will satisfy the DEP.
Chance if I ask Bernard? Can I direct a question? So, Bernard, I mean, if we were to,
That's
if we
fine.
take
Actually,
that process.
the build of the classroom was something I put in at the last minute, thinking that,
Just in case.
at some point it'd be nice to have a classroom in there and a place to store stuff.
And you said the ladder tower would probably be
Down.
2 to 3 years
Yeah,
out,
down
is
the road.
am I understanding that correctly?
Right.
What pads again, Bernard, do you need?
But our proposal is a pad, it's 6 and 7, which are the extrication and the burn pad. Now, the extrication is probably the more important one. The burn pad, the vehicle burn pad just makes it easier to clean out. But the extrication one would be one that's easier on equipment. It's kind of too bad to break your equipment training in rather.
So the 50 feet from the center of the road back, is that about to the tree line?
It's beyond the tree line. It's inside the tree line. Yeah, the tree line runs pretty close to the road.
However, to clarify things, our setback ordinance applies to buildings, not structures.
So the only thing that would be what's in that, just beyond the tree line, would be that buried tank and the hydrant would be, and the elevated tank, when that gets put in, would be that metal tank that's in the confined space tank.
That's number 3. That's number 3 on the page.
Number
5.
So the list that's on this page here, is this in order of the way you'd like to see it done?
No, no, it's just where I sat in one corner and went around, that's all. Number 1 is the box car, which would be on the back corner, the furthest away from the road, next to the road that goes into the rifle, to the gun range. And then the proposed building, which is gonna go away, and then 2 and 3 are the LP tanks, both the live one and the one with the piping that we actually set the fire to. And 4 is a ground level confined space, which is just a tank that sits flat on the ground, pretty close to flat on the ground. It's like I said, it's probably 15 feet across. It looks like a little mini silo. I think probably that's what it was originally, was a small grain silo. Number 9 is a proposed hydrant. Number 5 is the elevated tank, and we don't actually have an elevated tank at this time.
So without creating a lot of extra work for you,
What's that?
and building on what Vaughn said, would you be willing to maybe keep this the way it is, but go back and do a priority list and come back and present it so that maybe we could vote on it that way?
Pull out the 2 structures, if you will, the buildings, whatever you want, the classroom and the tower, and then, because they are kind of in there. You know, we need the Class A burn and the Class B burn. We need those sooner than later. And then after that, it would be the pads to do the firefighting, the vehicle fires and the vehicle extrication. But I can redo that if that's.
And maybe just a priority, and then that way it might be easier to give approval to without jumping through the hoops until the end.
You know, like I say, good chance that that'd be several years before either one of those structures get built, because to build that ladder tower it's got to be built pretty rugged to stand up there, and people beat up against it day after day. And one of the problems statewide they're fighting with the people who have gone in and built them is that this takes a big toll on them. The one in Lisbon is used about every weekend all summer, and it is totally destroyed. They can't use it anymore. It's just been beat up to a point that non-fixable. So it's one of the places that's gonna get some money to rebuild a new one.
Through the chair again for Vern. Vern, so you've been using that area previously for training? For the fire department?
We've done some, the controversial bus training down there, rolled that over a couple of times and had a mock drill where it rolled over with people in it. We have done some extrication, jam a couple cars together and cut them apart, but we've not done any fires in that area at this point.
Before you started using that site, did you seek approval for that use? Has there been any formal?
Well, we went to the council to get a piece of ground, where it started, and they gave us, like I say, an acre on either side of the road.
Yeah, gotcha. Because I just, in this discussion kind of going through, it's in the C4 district. Specifically says, and we dealt with this when we were talking about traffic with the skydiving, that the C4 district is good for other non-retail uses, including civic and recreational, are permitted if they meet traffic standards C and D above. So I think we're not, right, so we're within use there. And I think the other pieces that we have are construction of a new building, which if Bernard leaves 10 and 11 off of that, this expansion of buildings, etc. And then the only piece here that we would have is the establishment of new non-residential use, even if no buildings or structures are proposed. Though if the town's already been using that for that purpose, I don't see that being a major consideration. So I don't know. I would vote against the current motion, but I would likely offer a motion that we approve this. That we don't need to approve anything, but that we don't need to see a site plan until they are talking about building a structure for 10 and 11, building on what Jan said.
Could you please tell me who made the last motions? I didn't get that.
I did, but I'll retract mine.
And who seconded it?
Simone.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a timeline running with DEP for you to get?
No, but they'd like to have it done yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, working with them.
Right.
They are pushing a little harder this summer than they have in the past. No?
And that's 6, 7, and you just have another?
5,
Well,
6, 7.
number 1, 2, and 3 are down in that pit now. And then the silo is down there. We have used it. It's not actually anchored to the ground down there. We just set it up and used it. The ground mount one.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a couple of options. People have made the motion, can withdraw it, or we can vote on that. And then depending on what happens, that's another one, or we can amend it.
So we could amend to not require a site plan review. Okay, so make a motion.
So you want to amend your motion?
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to
Yeah, why don't you retract your motion?
Okay.
And then
And I
you retract the
retract
second.
I retract.
Now you have a new motion.
Yeah,
The motion is to not require a site plan review
yes,
based upon.
looking for my words. Hold on.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah,
We make a motion that the fire department approach the planning board for development on this site should they propose a new structure.
Or when they.
Fair.
When.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, okay, good.
I'll third. Second.
Any further discussion? Should we keep him in suspense a little while longer? Or should we-
Might fall asleep on you. I've been sitting out, working out in the sun all day, and my old body's not used to that.
Hearing no further discussion, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. We get ready to build a building if I'm still around. We'll come back.
Do you want a name on that building? No.
No, didn't build it.
Okay. All right. We have a couple of other items under new business. But I'm going to take the chairman prerogative here. And I'm going to make the recommendation that we have the discussion on item C first. Or the one that's highlighted in yellow, or at least it's yellow on mine. Because that should have originally been in the packet when it was sent out. And that's a copy of the draft of the letter that we're in the process of wanting to send to the council. So I'm assuming you've all had a chance to look at that. Comments, questions?
So just for background, we had a discussion at the end of last meeting based on a couple of business owners coming in and having some concerns, which has been, we've heard multiple concerns from businesses in this chamber, as well as out of this chamber. And so at the request of the planning board, I drafted a letter that I thought might capture the essence of the discussion that we had in terms of what this would, just making sure that this information is buried in the minutes of a planning board meeting and is able to be communicated to the council.
Catherine?
Yes, Catherine Rose, Town Manager. The Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation, that's in charge of economic development, after hearing what went on at the last council meeting, came in to speak to you to update you on economic development. I would have preferred that we would have been able to present some information so that you would have all of the information rather than just partial information that you have from the last council meeting, the last planning board meeting. For the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation, we have Barry R. Jordan Jr. here this evening, who's a former mayor
Point of
the
order.
community.
Point of order.
Yes.
Is this in relation to
It will
the
be.
letter?
Yes.
Okay, because none of the discussion that we had was about the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. It was in regards to the town office. And so I would like for us to focus, if I could, Chair, on the discussion at hand on this item and not. I'm happy to hear from Pete in terms of the activity that's going on, but that wasn't part of the conversation that we had at our last planning board meeting.
Well, this is part of the information regarding Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation and projects that they had. So I just thought it would be nice to introduce the members that were here. So we
Yeah, it's your
also,
decision. Is this? I guess the question is this related to?
yes.
This, I would like to see it. We will vote on, or we'll take action on the draft of the letter first.
Or just just as a point, I'm happy to hear information related to what is in the content of the letter and the complaints that were brought in front of the planning board last meeting that prompted this, but what's happening with the economic development is not germane to the discussion that we're having right now. It's mostly about the issues related to the complaints from Pop-On Overs as well as Skyline.
Well, it is germane because those are projects that the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation has worked on. So I can present exact information as to exactly what has taken place regarding the vacation land skydiving and also Pop-On Overs,
But I have something to say.
which is germane to the subject.
We are going to vote, or we're going to take action on the letter first, and then we can talk about the other issues.
Can I just make one comment? You're taking action on a letter in which you've heard information, but no one asked anybody that handles the economic development activities of the town about what has taken place, and no one has contacted myself as town manager who has information that's germane to this with documents and evidence that shows what has exactly taken place with vacation land skydiving.
So our role as a planning board is to provide feedback in the charter to the town council regarding issues, not to mediate issues that are taking place. And so the motion that is here is for us not to take action on anything except for to communicate forward basically information that's been in front of the planning board, not to, I don't think anything in this letter is talking about any specific action that is being taken place, except for soliciting formal input from local businesses to assess that. The council is the body that has authority over your performance, as well as the performance of the town. We do not, as a body, have that. All that we have is the ability to provide guidance to the town council, and that's, with this motion, all that we are seeking to do is to relay that information to the body that can actually mediate and provide any accountability on that.
Catherine, after we,
Well, there is no need to mediate because the council already has the information regarding vacation land skydiving, and I don't exactly know what the information is regarding pop-on overs. But the information that we were going to present is information that the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation has worked on. And so it seems really inappropriate that the information that explains what has taken place with documents that have gone back and forth between the skydiving group and exactly what is going on, which is not what was talked about at the council meeting, cannot be presented. That seems really inappropriate.
I believe you'll have the opportunity to present that in front of the council. That's the body that would be listening to this input. And one, just as a point, like when those individuals came into the planning board and voiced concern, the feedback that I personally gave to them at that time was to address that feedback right to the parties that they had concern on. But after thinking on it for a little bit and having heard those concerns, not just in that meeting, it felt like it was undue burden and felt like we were leaving individual company owners and citizens in the community to go out and do something when it's not an isolated incident that has been in front of the board.
I think one of the things that I've tried to talk about on several occasions is more a increased dialogue between the planning board and the council. I think at one of the last meetings, Mr. Mayor, I got up and said I think it would be appropriate for a report from the planning board be part of the agenda at the council meetings so that issues like this can be discussed.
I understand where Vaughn's coming from about you've got this information, let's pass it forward to the town council. However, if you've got other information that throws a whole different light on it, then let's pass all the information to the council so that there's two sides to the story here. And then we can look into it and see what action, if any, we need to take. You shouldn't pass in one half of a story and not hear the other half, because that way it's tainted and you're not getting the full information. That's just Tim Nichols' opinion.
Can I just say something? There's an item under new business for a presentation by the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. We can cover all these issues. We will cover all these issues. Right now, I guess it's just whether to pass this letter on to the council or not.
But what you're doing is passing along partial information, which once you hear the correct information, you would not authorize the letter.
Well, it's the option of the town council to round file the letter too. If it's partial information, it has no value.
You know, I apologize, I've been unable to come to the planning board meetings the last 6 months due to my broken leg and complications, and I frankly shouldn't be here now, but I will make sure I attend all of your meetings from now on so that you have all the information.
Through the chair?
Go ahead.
Catherine, have you ever have you ever prepared meeting minutes for this body prior to them being published into the record?
I have checked the meeting minutes when the town clerk has not been available. Both the town clerk and I will check them if the code officer requests.
My question was whether you have authored them.
I haven't written the planning board minutes, no.
Okay, so I would like that to be entered into the record because we have an agenda, and I can pull the meeting minutes up from 18 to 24 months ago, in which they were written in the first person, presenting information that you had put in front of this board. And that is what concerns me, is that by bringing this up, Mr. Mayor, and saying that we should be arbiters before it comes to the real arbiter, which is the council, who is your responsibility to provide oversight for that position, you're asking for, the only other place that the council has to see what happens here is the minutes from these meetings. If the meetings from these minutes are being utilized or being written by the party who we're conveying the information to the council, then you're not getting the information that is needed in order for you to be the arbiter in terms of doing your job for oversight of the town manager position. So, Jan, I'd like to respectfully ask that we move forward with the item, and that we move on to discussing Pete after the planning board discusses this
Can
item.
I just correct one item? Just one item. I do not author the meeting minutes of the planning board. I have been asked for my notes of what I talk about at meetings to help people. It's rare, but I have been asked for them, so I give a note.
I think what we would like to do is have a motion on the floor to forward this letter to the council. If the council feels that there's no value in it, that's what the new garbage cans are made for.
I'd like to ask a question or make a statement about the letter that we discussed as a draft, was it not?
Yeah.
That we did not even have the opportunity to read and discuss amongst ourselves before we got a response from Catherine. And I find that very inappropriate. I don't know if that's just me or what, but I don't understand why that occurred at all. And I think we should table this until we can go through this letter ourselves and decide if this is how we want it written before we present it to the council, and then maybe we can get a response from Catherine.
Other comments?
I would hope we will discuss the content, just because I don't want to be caught up in this, that we're just a yay or a nay based on what we see our responsibility to the planning board. The whole idea of this draft was for it to be something to start with for the planning board to be able to look at and see whether it expresses the sentiments of the planning board to the council.
I haven't seen the letter. Does anybody have a copy of the letter that I can read?
Jan, we have a question from the audience.
Yeah, Howard Rogolsky, Councilor at Large, 131 Elm Street. I have not read the letter either, but I was listening to the last planning board meeting and was interested as to where this was going. What is the essence of the letter from the perspective of what you might be potentially asking the council to do regarding any input?
Through the chair?
Yep.
Right. So essentially the essence of the draft to start with was to just fact piece in terms of what was presented in front of us, in terms of just relaying it, no interpretation, just that we had two business owners in the town that came, expressed their frustration.
So
some of the piece of the
in
discussion.
response to their...
Yeah, it was basically reporting back to the council those details. It pulled some information regarding the part that we do oversee, which is the comprehensive plan, and emphasize one of the pieces of making sure that we're supporting small businesses, that not only do these individuals keep their respective businesses in town, but their positive attitudes serve as excellent recruitment tools for others considering a new location. Relaying that this is not the first complaint we received in front of the board, and then based on the feedback, recommending to the council that it solicit formal input from local businesses to assess the town's performance in supporting business activity in Pittsfield.
Thank you.
So what do you propose that the council do to solicit the formal input from the local businesses? How would they implement that last paragraph, I guess?
That's what we would, I guess we would need to figure out whether we want to be more prescriptive in that or leave it to the council as just a recommendation.
Because frankly, if this letter came to me and told me that, I would say, well,
At the council level?
yeah, if I were at the council and who said I should implement this last paragraph, I would say, how? What are you saying?
Solicit formal input?
Yeah.
Where the town's is soliciting input right now regarding the theater, or the theater committee is doing it through a Survey Monkey. There are a number of different ways that that could happen. There have been the town has had forums for businesses in which folks have attended. I mean, the goal of this was not to be prescriptive in this. We don't hold accountable the council. That's not our role. Our role is to provide feedback. And so that was essentially what I felt like was within our role without dictating what that might look like.
Well, you answered the question by giving examples, but right here in this letter, I think we ought to give more examples like that.
Okay. So you're saying, like, if we were to do that, then we should put in something along the lines,
Yeah.
either through
how it should be implemented in the council.
I am probably one of maybe a limited number of people in this room that has been in most businesses in this town in the last 3 or 4 years. Part of that is the result of asking for support for the summer concert series. I've heard every plus and minus comment that businesses have. One of the things that keeps surfacing is, why don't we put together a small business forum to sit down and talk about some
You just said that. That was one of the examples.
And we actually have some person in town that is willing to be the sponsor of that. And when you check around with other communities, a lot of towns have it. They meet 2 or 3 times a year. They do it at breakfast or lunch or at supper, and they have, they put the white sheets of paper up on the wall, and they put down some goals and objectives and some suggestions. And that's one way to get feedback.
It seems to me like we're having a discussion about the item without actually having a motion on the floor.
Correct.
So if I could suggest, if we're going to discuss the letter, the proposed or the draft letter, most particularly with the specific contents of the letter, the specific recommendations, that we have a motion on the floor so that anything is formalized.
What would be a motion? If this is a draft, we'd have a motion to make a final verdict.
My suggested motion, and I can't make the motion because I'm not a voting member at this point. My suggested motion would be that we were to review the draft letter and approve final language for forwarding to the council. And if that needs to take place tonight, then it needs to take place tonight, but that would be my suggested motion.
Well, I would make a motion that we review the letter and make a final.
Do you want to make a motion that we accept it, and then we can move to discussion and then propose changes?
Well, I don't want to accept it without having a final. If this is a draft, I want to have a final letter.
We could do that during the discussion, I think, right? And then offer a amended motion with amendments?
Yeah, without leaving, I don't want to leave a lot of loose ends that would
Yeah,
make the letter,
totally.
Basically, invalid.
So are you suggesting we should go down through it 1 paragraph at a time, that way? And discuss
Or
each?
paragraphs that don't offer enough information. We can go 1 paragraph at a time. That we don't have to change every paragraph. So, but I don't know.
Are you making a motion?
Well, I can't really come up with a whole motion, but
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the letter as written, under the expectation that during the discussion we will likely amend this motion.
I'll second that.
And now discussion.
Okay, and then, what I said before, that last paragraph leaves a lot of holes as far as I'm concerned.
So if I were to amend the language to say, so that would reread, based on the feedback received by our board, we recommend that the town council solicit input from local businesses through an online survey, business forum, or other formal procedure to assess the town's performance in supporting business activity in Pittsfield.
Yeah,
Is that, would that be more in line with what you're thinking? Okay.
As long as that's something you can print out.
Yeah, I'm sitting here marking it up as we,
Okay.
so it will show the actual markup from the original, should people have. Jan Mose.
I guess as we, massage this letter, I guess I don't really see the harm in the town manager sharing what she wants to share with us before we massage this letter. What's the...
Well,
I feel pretty uncomfortable massaging this letter and not letting her have a chance to say what, I'm not saying she's gonna defend herself, but there might be some explanations of stuff that we don't hear. We've heard one side of the story from two people.
I think there are two issues here. Maybe there's even three. One is that we took the head-on from the people that were here. I think as a committee, we have a responsibility to share that information.
I agree.
Up the ladder.
Okay.
That still doesn't prevent us gaining knowledge, but we didn't have that beforehand. And that's been my issue all along, that sometimes there's just not a lot of dialogue and concern that
But we're doing the exact same thing here. We're not giving her a chance to communicate to us, which what do? We're stifling dialogue by not allowing her to share. I'd like to hear the other side of the story.
well, I think we can still have the other side of the story, and it's my intent to do that, but I think we have an obligation to do
This
that.
isn't the forum for that, is it? And we're just conveying what was conveyed to us.
Exactly.
And then,
In a nutshell.
And we're just passing
Let the town
along this
council deal with
information, and like it's been said, if the council doesn't like it, there's the
Put it in the
garbage
trash.
can and push it aside.
Can I make a recommendation to address Mose? I think that if there's anything that's factually incorrect in what we have presented here, that we should provide the opportunity for Catherine to say that that's factually incorrect, and we should maybe consider rewording it if we haven't done it. The idea in this was not for this to be a full fact mining piece, but just basically to summarize what it was that we heard and to relay that to the council. If there's, if Fisher is seeking to expand his business in Pittsfield is factually incorrect, then I hope that anybody that's in the room that's participating will correct us so that we are providing accurate information. But again, the goal of this is not to have made any judgments. I tried to make sure that the draft of this was very much about what we talked about at the last meeting, which is relaying information.
No, I'm not saying not do the letter. I just, if we're gonna write a letter,
I agree.
we should have all the information.
So could I suggest this through the chair? What if we were to go paragraph by paragraph and have people read it and then ask if there's anything in that paragraph that people feel uncomfortable with, is inaccurate, or would suggest being changed? Would that be all right, Jan?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
tonight,
Yeah, it shouldn't take, I don't think it should take. It's a short letter. So the first paragraph, is it all right if I just go through it? I have it right in front of me. So the first paragraph, on behalf of the Pittsfield, starting with on behalf of the Pittsfield Planning Board, is there anything in there inaccurate or that does not express the sentiments of the board? Okay, that one seems pretty straightforward. Number 2, the owners of Pop On Overs and Vacation Land Skydiving each attended our meeting on separate matters, et cetera, attended the meeting to request guidance from our board regarding the expansion and relocation, respectively, of their businesses.
That's correct.
That's all correct, right? Mm-hmm. During his discussion with the board, Mr. Fisher expressed frustration regarding the 6 months of time it had taken to navigate the town's requirements related to his plan to purchase real estate adjacent to the municipal airport to relocate his skydiving business. So that sentence has some stuff that we don't know, and maybe it hasn't taken 6 months of time. So Catherine, is that accurate in terms of, has it taken longer or shorter than what Mr. Fisher relayed to through the chair?
If I may speak, the building inspector and I were first contacted on December 7th and provided extensive information to Mr. Fisher, including the information on exactly what needed to be done, which was to go to the planning board and start the site plan review process. There was a very nice list of items that Steve put together that I relayed and sent on December 11th. We spoke with or met with Brad a total of 8 times, including a meeting of a number of people, a counselor, his partner, the code officer, and myself, and still the item did not proceed to the planning board. We have provided considerable resources and asked that a plot plan be provided, which still was not provided. And so I apologize that this has gone on. However, neither Steve nor myself or Councilor Curtis or anyone else can force somebody to go to the planning board to bring their information in so that we can go over whether it's an item that fits within that zone, because there was a question, and whether the visual impact would be approved by the planning board before anyone else dealt with that, and whether the traffic counts would be sufficient. And so I thought Steve had a lot of information that he provided to Brad. I myself got involved to help out. There were at least 8 attempts on our part and discussions to move the project to the planning board.
Okay, I think the issue here though is 6 months. Right?
Well, that's what I wanted to say. So the part of that I hear that maybe should be changed is to 5 months. He came in front of us in early May. We're hearing that it was December. That sounds like 5 months. So maybe what's that? But 5 months from the time that he came to us, right? So we could revise that to 5 months. Is that fair?
One of the things that made it difficult to deal with the whole situation is we never got a plot plan. We never really understood what he wanted to do with the building.
Again, the purpose of this agenda item is for us to talk about the letter and the factual information in the letter, not to be the arbiter of that's the council's job, right?
If I might make a suggestion, Mr. Chair. In order to change the language of this to express that Mr. Fisher reported this information to us and we made no judgment as to whether it was factual or not, I might suggest that instead of saying Mr. Fisher expressed frustration regarding the 6 months, we say Mr. Fisher reported that it had taken 6 months or something along those lines.
Okay.
Because expressed frustration regarding the 6 months of time it had taken is making a judgment as to the factual nature of the report.
So reported that it had taken 5 months of time at that point to navigate the town's requirements related to his
Well, did
plans
he
and permits.
report
He said
5 or
6
6?
though. We don't want to change his
Right.
words because that
Okay.
makes us.
Yep.
Okay. Keep going, Bob.
Great. So upon the request of the board, Fisher provided further detail regarding his dealing with Pittsfield's administrative staff, particularly the town manager, Captain Ruth. Fisher claimed to have emailed Ms. Ruth on 2 occasions without a response. This prompted Fisher to call the town office. Based on Fisher's statements, the individual who answered the phone told him that Ruth was not in the office and transferred him to Ruth's extension. Ruth answered the phone and told him that she was too busy to talk due to the budget process, and instructed Fisher to send a 3rd email on the matter. So maybe at the beginning of that last sentence, based on Fisher's.
He reported
To be
that.
safer, it should be Fisher stated.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Fisher's state, yep.
Because all we're doing is trying to share what he told us.
Right,
Yeah.
just the facts.
Just,
We don't
just
wanna
what
make
he,
it up.
did he say that? Just what he told us.
Yes, you did.
These were not facts. We have emails. I was in the hospital for a period of time. I don't see any emails during that period of time. But we first talked to him on 12/7. There's documentation on December 11th. Documentation on February 19th.
Point of order. Well, this is not related to this paragraph. We're talking about statements and the
It's, you know,
veracity
whether
of the
it
statements.
is actually a fact, the only fact is what he reported, whether that's right or wrong. And that's all we're doing in this letter. That's why it's going to the council to be really listened to both sides and to be determined whether there's anything to do or not, you know.
So my only comment is that no time has any employee, including myself, in the 39 years I've been a town manager, ever told anybody that people were too busy to talk to them.
It's irrelevant, Catherine. It's totally irrelevant. We are just putting on here what we were told, and we are going to give it to the council. That's all. It doesn't matter what you did or said right now. We are just putting in this letter what we were told. Am I not right? Is that okay?
That's the motion in front of the board.
Well, just so you know, for the record, the information is incorrect.
Go ahead, Vaughn.
Fisher is seeking to expand his business in Pittsfield. A business that is aligned with the town's comprehensive plan and bring visitors to town for recreational opportunities. His plan is to purchase the aforementioned property and expand the existing building to grow his business. He brought concerns to us regarding the cost of completing a site plan application and seeking determination of whether the planned business activities would be permissible use per the town zoning ordinance. Is there anything in that?
Sounds good.
I think the only judgment there that we put is that his business is aligned with the town's comprehensive plan, which I think is a fair assessment. As we work through this matter, Fisher and Montiero both expressed frustration with their perceived lack of support from town administration. In isolation, these concerns would warrant attention by the town due to its stated goal to be business friendly and the recognition from the town of Pittsfield comprehensive plan, the recruitment of local businesses provides significant value to the town. And then a quote that's obviously out of the comprehensive plan, so I don't think we have to go over that. Is there anything in that wording or anything that should be correct? All right, next paragraph. Unfortunately, this is not the first complaint that we have received from business owners in Pittsfield, either as a board or as individual members of the board. These complaints have been from existing businesses as well as startups. While we as a body recognize some of the complaints are associated with the stricter code requirements that Pittsfield must enforce due to the Maine Uniform, this should say the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code, many are related to customer service and a perception that the town is not working with businesses to find solutions that support their efforts.
I have a little problem with that, and the reason is that we're saying many and some, and you know, I think that we're really focusing on these two people that have talked to us. I think we should keep it there, because when you say others and many, then I think we're interjecting opinions. We're influencing that.
So that would be on, you're talking on the, is it, so I guess there are two places that would hold. One would be, is it all right for, are you saying we should strike the part that says this is not the first complaint?
I think
or
it's
looking at the many?
I think that's irrelevant, because if we hadn't addressed the other complaints, those are history, and we're on day one and square one here on this particular item, and I think we should stay focused.
I agree with Simone. I think the whole paragraph could be tossed.
Yeah.
Do we want?
Because we're either going to show proof or have instances where we can state this is what so and so said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ron?
If the other items, if any other items are a matter of public record, then I feel that they're pertinent to this letter. However, I would suggest two things. In the first sentence where it says, or as individual members of the board, that language should be struck, because that any complaints that were made to individual members of the board that were not filed are not part of the public record, and therefore not pertinent. And further, if we are going to make the observation that previous complaints have been filed or reported to the board, we should list the records where those may be filed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And if we
Because we're going to stick to the facts of what's valid and what we can substantiate.
You know, I think the biggest concern that gets voiced on occasion is the process seems cumbersome. Right, Brent?
Inexpensive.
And expensive. You know, I think that's something that as the board, the more that we hear about that, we need to that was the discussion here tonight with the fire chief in terms of, what can we do to live within the guidelines, but still honor the ordinances and town regulations. So I think I would agree with taking some of those things out, but I think that's an ongoing issue that we need to be looking at when people come in to.
So if we were to say, we have received, so I guess, I've heard Anna talked about striking that entire paragraph. And I'm kind of hearing there may be something in here that we want to keep. Is there something specifically in there, Jan?
No,
or
I
anybody
think,
would, or should we just strike that paragraph?
I think we could strike the paragraph, but all I'm saying is just file it away that I think in the future, because of something like this, that we will probably be a little bit more attuned and alert to specific concerns that people raise in the future, and I think we need to keep track of those, and because we do want to be business friendly, and we do want people to come to town, and the more we can make the process better, and I think something like that may happen if we do something like changing the last paragraph.
Yep.
Okay.
So can I read it? So is there anyone who's opposed to striking that paragraph? Okay. So the last paragraph with the amendment that I had put forward before would read, based on the feedback received by our board, we recommend that the town council solicit input from local businesses through an online survey, business form, or other formal procedure to assess the town's performance in supporting business activity in Pittsfield. If we're to achieve the goals of the Town of Pittsfield Comprehensive Plan, we want to ensure that we're supporting those local businesses that seek to invest in our community. Is there anything in that people see as inaccurate or would want to change?
I think it's a good idea overall. I mean, if we're going to put a sign out that says Pittsfield is business friendly, then we should be business friendly. And our perception of business friendly may be different from someone else's. So I think this might help us to figure out if we're on the right track.
Okay.
I see this as a very positive thing. I see it as an opportunity for us to look in the mirror and, from others' eyes and see what's in there. And then we can, if we don't do that, we can never improve because we think we're there.
That's right.
That's right.
There could be 50 businesses out there that have a gripe about something.
Sure.
But we think they're happy.
Right. Because they paid and opened their doors.
Yeah.
Ron?
Are we, first the question, are we through with that last paragraph? Have we?
Yeah, that's everything that I have here.
If I might also
Words
suggest
thing.
adding a paragraph directly above the last one that we reviewed, stating that we are not making any consideration or judgment on the factual natures of these questions, and also raising the concerns that the town manager has raised regarding the factual nature of the statements that were previously reported. I think that would be a good opportunity to present the fact that we've had two different reports, so that the town council is fully aware that the information that was reported might not be accurate to the record.
Okay.
That's
So what would that? So
I-
I'm in front of a keyboard, so it's easier for me to see. Oh, you've got one too. Come on, you don't have an excuse. We're not making a judgment about the veracity of these claims, and he's got it. He's working on it. So I'd like to amend my motion that I'd like to say that we accept that we send a letter as amended to the council for consideration.
Is there a second?
So who seconded that before?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like you were Ron's writing.
We'll work as I'm just buying him time. He can crack under pressure.
No, I think, it's just a comment, but we are relaying complaints that were given to us as they were given to us, to the town council. But, in the last paragraph, we're offering a recommendation and, you know, some suggestions, mechanism that these recommendations can be implemented.
I mean, who does the fact finding? The town council? I mean, we're just
Yeah.
conveying what we
It
were
will be
told.
the town council, right?
Who seconded Vaughn's motion, or?
I did.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable just throwing it at the council saying it's your problem now without, you know.
No, that was a good idea. Good idea.
And so, Jan, have you still been attending council meetings?
Yes.
So would you be available to answer questions? Would you feel
Always.
comfortable? Okay. Thank you for representing us for that.
So have we created another draft of the letter?
The final draft, I'm waiting on
The
Ron's.
final?
Yeah, can you hear the click?
So, however it turns out, you will present that to Jan, and you.
Yeah, and I don't know if we can we email for final review? How does that work?
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I was wondering if we've made a lot of changes and recommendations, which I haven't been able to keep track of.
Yeah, I have them all here, so I'm wondering whether we just send
We
these.
could just email it, and we could all respond to the email whether or not we agree with it or not.
Yeah. Do we have I know like our board, we have a ability to have a meeting virtually as long as X number of people sign off on it. Do we have that as part of our?
We don't.
I don't
We
know
don't.
the answer to that.
We might want to, that might be something that we want to consider
Those
moving
things are
forward.
available, there are so many free services where you can all just get an access number and a code, and the meeting is set up, online meetings, and they work well.
Catherine?
Yes, for the town council, the planning board, and the zoning board of appeals as standing boards, it's not legal under the state law for the virtual voting to take place, so you have to actually be there.
Good point.
So we'd have to, I would have the letter tonight.
May I direct a question to the town manager? Would it be permissible under the state law for each individual planning board member to go to the code enforcement officer's office and sign off on the letter? In lieu of us holding another meeting and another vote?
Why don't you just agree on what the letter is tonight?
That seems reasonable.
Then there'll be no questions.
Okay.
I have sent the following text to Vaughn as my proposed. And it's, no, there we go. Okay.
Different Vaughn.
You thought he was
the wrong Vaughn.
We would like to emphasize that we make no judgment regarding the veracity of the reports made by the individuals stated above. At our June 10th, 2019 meeting, the town manager reported that her records indicate that the statements made were not factually accurate. This indicates that further investigation and discussion at the level of the town council may be warranted.
I'm good with that. Can you just hand me that? I don't know that I can get emails, so you want to just hand me that and I'll get it back to you. Thank you.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah. Make a motion to accept the letter.
We have it on the, yes, we have a motion already.
It's on there?
We'll
Oh,
just
good.
go to a vote.
Okay.
We'll wait until the voice gets back.
Where's this different?
Ron, you comfortable with that addition?
Anything I wanted, I just changed. You guys.
Yeah.
Just made it better than- History is written by the right?
History is written by the person who writes it.
That should be on a t-shirt.
you, sir. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Since the discussion is complete, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
All right. So I will send an email to Steve with, I send you 2 versions, one that's the marked up version, one that's the clean version. So you have that.
Thank you.
Catherine, do you want to present something or not?
All right, can I speak on the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation Economic Development for the town? To proceed to that. All right, thank you for letting us speak this evening. Because there were questions and concerns at the last meeting and some confusion that started up recently with a few people regarding economic development, we thought we would come in and make a presentation, which would be very brief. So I apologize I couldn't introduce you all earlier, but now Gary R. Jordan Jr., our former mayor, Tim Nichols, our current mayor. We also have 2 other directors on the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. So I don't have you back to you there. Councilor Robert Stackhouse and former Councilor Michael Gray. I am the 5th director because I'm the treasurer of the town manager, and the treasurer of Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. So it's locally known as PEEC, P-E-E-C, formed in 1995 by resolution of the town council. It's a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, has 5 directors who are introduced. The reason for forming PEEC back in 1995, which is still relevant today, is the ability to move quickly, if necessary, on economic development projects due to the ability for confidentiality, so much easier than the town council or any board such as the planning board. And it serves as a buffer between the town and the business. Many businesses require confidentiality. As soon as you mention coming into a town council meeting or a planning board meeting, some businesses will just clam right up and they don't want to do it because of all the information and items that you hear, nothing to do with our particular boards, but just in general in dealing with government. So the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation, although it's part of the government, it's separate too. It's under the oversight of the town council. If the business is global or even large, PEEC has been required to sign non-disclosure agreements. So the mission statement of PEEC is very interesting and it's very substantial, so it works out quite well. In 1995, indicates the corporation is organized and shall be operated on a non-profit basis to foster, encourage, assist, support, and promote the development, establishment, settlement, or resettlement within the town of Pittsfield, Maine, of industrial, manufacturing, fishing, agricultural, recreational, or other business enterprises for purposes of stimulating economic growth in the town, in part by providing support incentives for businesses to construct and expand facilities incorporating new technologies or techniques, combating community deterioration, lessening the burdens of government, providing for increased employment for the citizens of the town, and providing for increased tax base within the town. The corporation shall constitute a local development corporation under the state law. So why put PEEC in charge of economic and community development? PEEC was put in charge of economic community development due to the same reasons that people would put a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. The ability to move faster than a community, the confidentiality, they can entrust items with less rules and restrictions, what we call red tape. Also, we had 2 groups at that time, back in the 2000s, that were working on economic community development. There's a little bit overlapping. So PEEC was tasked with revitalizing and going out and redirecting itself. So a good example of how PEEC can work on items such as selling land versus the town is some examples that we recently have. When PEEC owns town, owns property versus the town owning property to sell to a company, PEEC processes a purchase and sales agreement, and then when the parties have had time to review the title, you have the closing and the property is transferred. If the town owns the property, there needs to be, beyond several explanations and items and discussion items, 2 agenda items with ordinances, a public hearing, an ad in the newspaper, as well as then the other steps of the closing. So this can take at least double the time. Sometimes not that much, but usually it does take a long time. And when you start mentioning going to the town council, which I've recently done on a project, the business owners become nervous, they don't want to be in the limelight, and they wish to just do business. So this is why the 501c3 works well. The town manager serves as a staff for Peak along with all the other duties. And there were some properties that Peak had many years ago, and then it was dormant for a while until we revitalized it. There was a long-term lease purchase arrangement with Somerville, a lease for the tech center, and some property that was owned in the industrial park. One of the main items that Peak is required to do is that the federal economic development grant that we got from the EDA requires that the town promote the new industrial park lots that were built along with the water, sewer, power, and other items for the $880,000 grant, which was supplemented with $220,000 in other federal money, which also ended up beyond the lots, which were a great resource. We were able to put down a very heavy shim and overlay for the industrial park street, which would have been highly expensive. So that was good. So that has to be a focus in which we focus on manufacturing, we track the work, we track all the inquiries that we have. And this paperwork, we've been audited, we've had people come from the federal government. So our task is to sell the lots. And so we can have, by the zoning, other types of businesses there, but we have to focus on manufacturing. The sectors that we also focus on were those that were identified from a study that was done a number of years ago, and this was very helpful in that we looked at sectors of precision manufacturing, forest products, or advanced technology value-added wood products, and that's doing the wood products with the computers. High-tech employers such as financial services, information technology, or environmental services. So along with those clusters that we chose through input, the town's strategic location along I-95 obviously sets us up for transportation-oriented industries, as well as retail shopping. The medical field, or medical cluster around the regional hospital, is also a focus, and that just comes pretty much naturally, although we have worked with 2 doctors, one of which has come, which is good, and one of which went with the hospital. The town has also attracted extensive farming and agricultural operations. We were able to attract a food distributor to the Pittsfield Industrial Park for one of the lots that was owned by Pete. So these have been the focuses. We also have a new sector that's just been identified for us, which is tourism, which we've already been promoting and indirectly through accenting our recreational assets, open space, the river, the library, the cultural and the natural resources. So that's the basic background on Peak and what it does and why we have it. And so now Gary R. Jordan Jr. is going to talk about briefly some of the projects that Peak's been involved with. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys mind if I slide my chair up and sit here? As I get older, I can't see. So I want to thank you, Planning Board, for allowing us to speak this evening and give you some updates. It's my pleasure to talk to you about some past projects we've had, just so you know, and some current ones we're working on that we'll probably cut before you. So let me just go down through some past projects. I don't know what you have for information on some of our past projects, but I mean, we've been involved with the Edwards Tech Center. Currently now it's Chimbro's Institute. We're involved with that. Lander Express we've been involved with. Two structures in town, United Technologies and SAS, we've been involved with those two. And I'll just talk a little bit about those because those are probably the most recent things that, even though you haven't heard much about them, is is always on that burner, or was always on the burner, is, of course, when SAS left and when UTC closed, you'll talk about UTC, we got involved in that. And, we toured many people through that building. And of course, anyone that hasn't been through that building, it's a very impressive building. So we toured a number of people through that building. So that was part of our thing that we do. And I will tell you this, is that two businesses that we were talking to there, they have high remarks for the town. Okay? Not every business is a perfect fit for town. And they have to determine that. They certainly are impressed with what we present them. We've always had that. We've had good relationships with people that we've toured with. SAS is another structure, a little bit more complicated, okay, because it's held in trust, a bigger piece of property. We had some developers go through there several times, okay. And again, it's real estate. You're looking at a building that's old. You're looking at what could be under the ground a lot of times, okay, and what you can do to this building in this size town and in this size location. And these developers were certainly suited for that type of thing. They just had too much on their plate. Okay, so those are the kind of things you struggle with a little bit, and trying to give incentives to come into this town. But those are some of the things that we do and help market the town in that way. Those are some of the background things. You don't see us at a meeting necessarily, but I've been many times in that SAS building, and quite frankly, it's pretty scary. It's an old warehouse, So and of course, very impressive with UTC's building. That's quite a building in there. So we were involved in those two type of projects there. The Somerset Plaza, okay, we're involved with locating business there, okay, and just at our recent meeting, we are exploring a possible business to go in there. So that was just at our last meeting. We looked at a possible business, and we're exploring that, meaning we're tapping them on the shoulder and having a conversation. In this conversation, this business may not be ready to take that jump yet, but maybe has expressed some type of interest. So we want to kind of explore that and see where that goes. Dunkin' Donuts, we were involved with that. In a traffic study that was done by DOT, the sidewalks, we had some concerns with the sidewalks or lack of sidewalk in this case. And we had some concerns also about that whole region up there, dealing with the traffic flow, hearing a third lane could be involved. Okay, does there need to be one? All the information from DOT about that. But what I'm concerned about, me in particular, is pedestrians up there. Walking around. It is a busy place at some times. So you're talking about the bank being up there, Rite Aid, and a bigger gas station now. There's a lot of people converging there on noon time to do business, and then all of a sudden you're introducing Dunkin' Donuts, and how many cars are flowing through there. You've probably been to some of these fast food chains where the line's in the road, okay? We certainly don't want that, okay? So that was our concern, is pedestrians up through there. And that's why you see that walkway. And that's a reason for it. And also, that walkway is great, but where's it going? Where's it going? Is it safely directing people across the street, okay, to the gas station, right? Those are some of the things that we sometimes are concerned about. Are those traffic patterns? We heard all the traffic stories about traffic patterns up there for a long time. And, quite frankly, apparently there's not that many accidents up there. That was the census. Even though maybe we would think in our head there's a lot of traffic, there must be accidents. We were told no, there wasn't. And then we heard about third lane, and quite frankly, this thing was quite a while ago, so I don't know where that ever happened or why that never happened. But, those are some of the things that were involved within a meeting there with the engineering and DOT at the time. We did at one time source out lead generation, okay, and that was for UTC and SAS with a company to source out any type of leads for companies that would be a good fit there, okay, and that did not pan out, okay. We're involved in that solar project you see on Route 2 out there. We had some discussions about that. Deal with tax insurance financing. Industrial park is probably our biggest focus, which I want to talk to you tonight, which is really kind of on our burner right now. And I'm just going to like to share with you a couple of good things. Okay, when business wants to move to town, it's a great thing. Sometimes we can't accommodate them. It's just a basic fact, we don't have the size building they want. In this particular case, we have 4 lots for sale up there on that phase 2 project, okay? Now, the industrial park looks big. I mean, you look at those lots up there, you think you can go on for miles putting in stuff. But the fact of the matter is you can only build on 40% of that property, all right? The other 6% you can't build on because of the DEP permit. You know I'm saying that right? I'm not saying that right, Catherine, just let me know.
You are, exactly.
Okay?
Right.
So you look at that and you go, are you kidding me? 60% of this property is not buildable? Right. And we can't change lot lines either, by the way, without going through this whole thing with them. So we just don't do it. Now, we don't own that property. Pete doesn't own that property. The town owns the property, but since it's economic development, we are involved in that. So we had 2 businesses wanting overlapping lots, okay? And I mean, really, you think about it, what's the chances at the same time people want the same exact lots? Both qualified businesses that could be put there, So one of the things that we had a problem with is we don't want to turn business away. And so we needed to come up with a solution for one of these businesses. And we didn't know which one, but we had to come up with one of them. We did have an idea one business wanted multiple lots, or maybe even all lots in this case. So we did seek out another piece of property that was not owned by us, was owned by a private, it was just held privately. That's all I'll say on that. And I can't give names, all right, because people don't want to hear their name on the internet here, and it's not right. We're in a lot of confidentiality here. But we were able to get a lot and have those 2 people, the buyer and the seller now, come to an agreement on a purchase price for that property that would house this business. So it's a win-win, real win-win. And now we're moving forward on those 4 lots. Those 4 lots will be presented to the town council with a purchase and sale agreement, and they will decide they want to sell them for the price that we've recommended. So that's a good thing, and hopefully we'll see some construction on that property. So that just recently happened, and I'm sure it'll come before you guys, about what's going on there. But there was a lot of work on really both the buyers' parts. This wasn't one meeting we had, and trust me, they were frustrated and we were frustrated too, because we don't want to lose business. And in this particular case, I think that everyone understood that. It was said like that in the meeting. And I know it was frustration too, because trust me, I was frustrated, and so board members are bored. But it worked out, and luckily we found a buyer, a seller, and this buyer it just worked out. So the cards were right for everybody in that particular thing. So you'll be seeing that and probably hearing about that, and I don't know when that'll take place. It's kind of moving away from us now, okay, because that was taken care of. So that'll be moving to the council. And the other thing you heard me speak about just briefly is we're exploring a tenant in the plaza. Just exploring it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Other than that, that park is pretty much filled up. Okay, there's really no more. Well, I won't say there's no more development. I'll say there's a building there vacant. I'll say that, you know, and there's been some activity on it, but nothing's happening with that building. And our focus isn't quite on that. Isn't really right now on that building. Our focus right now, or starting to be, is what are we doing? The park is filled up. Okay, so where do we want to venture, and how do we want to bring commercial in or any industry in? Okay, so again, we're exploring another piece of property now. Okay, that's zoned correctly, and but it may not be available for a couple of years, or maybe it's never available to us. But we've kind of tapped that landowner on the shoulder too, just so he doesn't forget about us. And of course, we got vacant buildings, vacant lots all through town here. So the question is, you know, each one of these lots has always got a story to it, you know. And some of this is privately held. That's the other thing, it's privately held. So if they don't want to sell their property, you really can't force somebody to sell their property. But we are looking at trying to figure out now where we can bring in industry if we have to. And we're just going to start having that discussion, okay?
So what you're saying, Gary, right now, today, is we're full.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know, people go, well, what do you mean we're full? Well, we are full. Look at that industrial park; it is filled. Okay, there's multiple businesses there, and some businesses have 2 locations. And you look at it, you know, you look at the lot between the headed down from Somerset, where the building is across from Sonico, that building that was built, that town owned, and where Walpole is. There's a big. You look like there's a big lot there. Well, it's not a big lot. There's a big lot, but it's owned. All right, and it's this one big lot because again, you can only build in 40% of that property. It's ridiculous. That's what it is, you know. So it looks like we got a lot there, but all the buildings are filled. And we're venturing out to see. We do have more property. Trust me. If you go up Webb Road, okay, just before you get to the interstate to the right, well, that filters way over in back there. This property in front of Rite Aid, that's for sale, you know. So the industrial park has another piece of property, but we're not quite sure who owns this property. I know that sounds funny, but we thought we owned it. Somebody thinks they own it, you know. So
who's paying the taxes?
Yeah, right. I know. So there's a little. It's just a complicated piece. It's where Sonico sits, but.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What money supports Peak?
Sale of property a lot of times. So I'll give you an example of that. Is where Chibro sits, that property there.
The Edwards building, UTC.
Well, no, where the Institute is right now.
Okay.
Okay, that money that was sold, and Peak got that money because we own the building.
No, I mean Peak itself. There's a board, right?
Yes.
Are there monies that Peak has at its disposal?
Yes.
So
yeah, that's right.
So do board members receive stipends or any kind of nothing?
No. We take that money and if we need to, we try to, in this case, purchase property with it. You know, that we see that we need to make an economic development improvement on, or anything. I'll tell you, this other project we're working on is economic development and trying to use economic development money, which we have. We're going to be creating a video. So we've just hired somebody to create video for the town, showcasing the town. Okay, so we felt that We've never done that before. I've heard from some people in town about that, and I said, I think we could do that. I think it's a good use of that money to showcase the town. And, you know, I'm a big cheerleader of town because I sell real estate here, you know. And I've lived here I used to live here for, you know, I haven't lived here for 3 years, but for 45 years I've lived here, you know. So, you know, a big cheerleader. And one of the concerns is if you want people to come to town and stay in town and live in town, where are they living? You know? So that's part of economic development for us in a way, and it's kind of new, is where are these people that we want to come to town going to live? Because I got statistics for you on real estate. And real estate in Pittsfield is going like this. It's a meaning that it's not for sale. And typically, you know, I think like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we had, at any given time, we might be in the 60s with property for sale. And even still today, people say, wow, there's a lot of property for sale in Pittsfield. Nope, there's really not. There's 15 properties that are listed on through the main listing service for sale right now. That is very low. I don't know if I've ever seen it that low. So that's a concern. And there's a couple good things about that. Unemployment's low, people don't move. I mean, that's a basic fact. They're not moving. Versus we don't have a big industry that's closing down that everyone's out of here. And that is what happened when UTC left. The phone rang. Okay? So we don't have that. At this present time, we don't have that. But you know, people just aren't moving. The only people that are moving are either, I don't like the cold winter anymore, you know, or sometimes it's a family member they have to move for, you know, or a job. I mean, that still happens, you know. But, you know, there's a lot of people that are living here, and where do we put them now? Okay, so that's kind of a concern. So I don't know, you know, subdivisions, you know, there's a paper one up by the hospital that I was involved in a little bit just recently. But I think that, you know, we got to kind of think about that a little bit. You know, I know there's tiny homes. You know, I'm a big fan of tiny homes, trust me. You know, those are kind of interesting. You know, community of tiny homes. But if you want people here, there's got to be a reason for them to come. And I think Pittsfield has got plenty of reasons. I can just go on forever with Pittsfield, the reasons to live here, north, south, east to west, and why be in this town. So I think it's just important to understand that if we want people to come, where are they living now? Because I deal with a lot of people from out of state, probably 80% of my business, and you know, what they're looking for is safety. A lot of people that come up here going, I'm not living in California, I can't afford it, and crime rate's crazy. I like want to come to Maine. You know, the other thing are schools and taxes. One of the number one questions before somebody buys a house, what are these taxes? And that can sway them a little bit. But the other thing is, what are we getting for those tax dollars? All right, in Pittsfield, you get a lot of stuff, you know, and we've got a lot of businesses, and I travel a lot, and you know, this town is very, very lucky. We got a lot of great things going for it, and you would never guess what really is important to a town. And people will laugh at me, but I'm telling you, this is one of the most things that bring a community together is sidewalks. If you don't have sidewalks in town, you don't know your neighbor probably sometimes. You got people walking, and any given night you come here, you see people walking, right? Right? Sidewalks bring people together. So next time you hear anyone on a sidewalk built, maybe think about where's that going, right? Are people walking on it, you know? But those are big things, because I've been to towns where people don't know their neighbors because there's no sidewalks. And those are great things to have. We have street lighting here. You know, we have all these things here that, you know, hospitals, airports are a big attraction to people. Okay? Like, you know, schools are a big attraction. So there's so many things, and north, south, east to west, I mean, really, we're in a great location. You know, go skiing west, go to Katy National Park, Ocean, you can go to Boston relatively quick from here, north, go to Katahdin, you know. It's many things geographically where we're located, north, south, east, to west, so. And many people know that too. Many people are in Bangor, Augusta, or even Portland, and are coming to Pittsfield. So I think it's something that you need to think about is like, where are we gonna put them all? Where, because people will come, you know. But where do you want to put them? You know, I mean, you don't want to build a subdivision out in the rural zone out there and have 40 homes sitting out there all of a sudden. You know, it's just I think it's good discussions for the planning board to have. You know, you do your comprehensive plan, you're looking at that. I think those are key things. You know, that you know is a key if you want to bring industry in and businesses in. Where are we going to house these people? You don't want them living, you know, north or out of town. You want those people to stay in town, be part of business. So we're kind of worried about that.
Well, I think we've got plenty of abandoned homes in town. So, somebody come into.
No, I'm telling you, that's not going to happen. Abandoned homes, people don't want abandoned homes. You know, they're work. You know, and you know the people I deal with. You know, if you want an abandoned home, you better have cash first of all to buy it, because that's what it's going to take a lot of times from lenders. You know, and they just don't want them. You know, they're shocked at our older stock homes that we have here. Just in general, I'm not talking Pittsburgh, I'm just talking Maine. You know, we're the new homes. You know, but that doesn't mean you need a new home. I'm just saying that people just throw away these abandoned properties. You know, but I think it's just a discussion that you know you may want to just think about where we house where people that want to come in, because 11 homes or 15 homes for sale, not a lot. You know, and they'll come and go, but that's low in this town. And I think I've got anyone want real estate statistics, you can just call me. I'm glad to email you statistics. And also what people buying. You know, the median income for a sale in this town is $132,000. You know, that's what it is right now. Now that could change in a heartbeat based on what's selling. So, and when you only sell 35, when there's only 35 transactions, residential transactions a year in town, it doesn't take much to throw a figure off. But anyhow, getting off the track a little bit, but there is a component there that we're concerned about. We, you know, another 25 or 30 jobs in town through a factory. Where are they living? You know, we really like to have them here instead of traveling, you know, and be part of the community. So we're concerned about that. We're concerned about you know, where we should really develop, even though we have an idea. Remember I told you about Webb Road? There's another thing we're looking at. But how to get rid of some of these just buildings that are sporadically put places, you know. how do you get rid of them? You know, they're tough. They're tough. So any ideas that people have, you know, or any kind of lead they have, we would love to check it out. And the video, you know, we're just starting. We'll probably our next meeting with these people will be with. We hired Black Fly Media out of Portland, and that'll be just starting a storyboard. And we are going to talk to people dealing with business. You know, we've got an idea, and they've got ideas. We're going to talk about, you know, the Egg Festival, the Cheese Guild that's coming up here in September. We want to get involved. We want to have them here for those kind of things, events that we have, and unique businesses we have in town. You know, either down Main Street or, you know, I mean, Vaughn's got a unique business, really, solar. I mean, it's a big deal now with homes. Okay, so we want to just talk to lively, colorful people that you know, love Pittsfield, want to, you know, the spirit of Pittsfield. So, and we'd like to showcase that too. You know, I would like to showcase it, yes. My opinion is let's showcase it at the theater, if the theater's still available, okay, to showcase it, that would be good, to have the public come in and see those things. and see kind of a little bit more what we're working on, and
Something like that on the town's website would be nice.
yeah, this thing we talked to them, this media company about. This is going to be for businesses to promote themselves, why you want to come to town. Because we want families to come to town, we want business to come to town, okay? And what the town has to offer, you know, from schools to parks to hospitals, airports, you know, get the river, do all these great things, you know. Just got to kind of put it all together. And it's going to, one of the things I was concerned about is it's going to be somewhat of a long process with this. Because I'd like to see 4 seasons. And they agree with that too, having 4 seasons. But we'll probably put together a couple of short hooks prior to that, you know. Because obviously we don't want to wait 12 months. So we're going to put some hooks in. And we're doing 3 videos. And then each one of them will, you know, be some with business. Why come to Pittsfield, you know, this is why we believe you should come here, be here, live here, you know. I want to be in that, I want to go to that town, I want to see what it's about. So, I expect it'll be very impressive by them. And you know, you'll be hearing from us, tapping people on the shoulders to say, who should we be speaking to, you know. Okay. That's what we're kind of up to right now.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, thank you. Any questions? No? Thanks for allowing us in, yes.
You mentioned that when businesses come in, sometimes you'll offer incentives. Without getting into specifics, clearly for confidentiality, any examples that you could offer? Like tax incentives, or like what does that look like?
Yes, price on property. Yeah, there could be a whole handful of things that we need to, some of the things that we've, depends on what the business is, how big it's gonna be, how many employees is it bringing in, is it, you know, traditionally with the industrial park, you know, we're talking a larger type business in that industrial park. But it just depends on what the hook is and how much of a hook it is. Because some things we can't, some things we're not gonna be able to do. You know, it'll probably be beyond our control, or if maybe it's not zoned right, they might have to tap Steve on the shoulder a little bit first, you know, because we can't, you know, change the zoning of what this business wants. But we try to look, that's the first thing we look at, does this thing fit in that zone, you know? Yeah, that's what we do. Sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes we just don't have a big enough building, or, you know, it's not high enough, or it's not wide enough, or it's not close to the interstate. You know, that's always the thing we hear. You know, we need access, direct access. We don't want truck traffic going down through a neighborhood, you know, all night long. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff to that equation. You know, and we can't have. You don't want every business in this town, I'm sure. You know, you know, you do want to kind of contain the town a little bit. You don't want to be just all of a sudden spreading into, you know, out on the Route 2 and, you know, up the web road and everything. You know, you just don't want that at all. I don't think the town wants that. And, you know, that's why it's so important that, you know, the town has great land use ordinances. I mean, they're very detailed versus some towns that you don't even know who to talk to at the town office, you know. But, you know, you guys got them right back of you know. And those things are great, you know, great guides. And glad to hear that you're looking at a comprehensive plan, because to me that's always been a moving document, you know. Always moves. And I think it's a great thing that you guys are doing that. And, I would encourage you to, you know, kind of always keep that in your head of change. It's going to happen. That's it. Thank you for letting us speak. I mean, I think most of the speaking, I guess. Sorry, Dan.
It's okay.
Yes, thank you. I can finish up on the incentives and everything, just to answer that question quickly. We do provide, in addition to being the staff person for Peak, also and completing all the paperwork for all the projects, I also work on all the economic community development items in general for them and for others. First, if the project is large enough and we do not have too many community development block grants open, we are allowed to apply for another community development block grant. So that's been a large funding source for the community for some businesses. What's sad is that there are very few grants for small and medium-sized businesses. The grants are basically for the businesses that are large enough to have the staff person to work on all the paperwork. For the town, for each CDGB, we've got a whole file cabinet. So we've got various file cabinets upstairs for these grants. It just is a lot of paperwork and requirements. And the project has to be one where the monies that the business will get from the town will take care of the fact that they have to bid everything out and that they have to use for their construction the federal wage rates, which are much higher than the average rates here and what we would usually have on projects. So the businesses have to be big enough so they will actually have it work out. And I have worked with a number of big businesses and medium-sized ones trying to be big. And you know, sometimes they say that it was helpful, and sometimes, you know, they wonder if they would have done the grant if they had known how much time and energies it would take. This is a lot of restrictions. But in the end, the grants all worked out well. The business is also required to take the lowest responsive bidder, so they can't choose the bidder that they want, that they might be comfortable with. So there are a few grant opportunities, but generally it's for the larger business. We also do a lot of advertising, promotional pieces, attend regional meetings in order to get resources and work with others, because the town can't work by itself. You got to work with others so that you all pool your resources to help the businesses. Until recently, we had a governor's account executive that was assigned to us because of our business-friendly designation. And so when businesses came in and they wanted to expand, or were here, wanted to expand or start a business, we would get a write-up from them and send it into the governor's account executive, who would then try to see if there was any monies any place that could help them, or resources beyond utilizing the business answers at the Department of Economic Community Development, which is a wonderful resource, and as well as different incentives that the state has. So we would package those up. Oftentimes people will call or come in and they just want some cash. You know, they would like to get a grant from the town, and you know, the only grant program that's available usually is the community development block grant, and you have to be quite large and have it work out. Once in a while there's a USDA grant that would be available, and we always send the people to work with Efficiency Maine, which the town itself is working on a grant now in order to have incentives so that we can fix the lighting and things. So there's a whole...
we don't have a revolving loan program anymore.
Correct. No, we don't. The town did have a revolving loan program in the 80s and 90s. It lost so much money that there had to be huge write-offs. When I arrived in 2002, I had to collect or try to collect monies that had been due to the town for 10, 12 years. In some cases I did collect, in other cases we had to write it off. There were a lot of bankruptcies. So the town is not the bank of last resort. Those funds were committed to other projects so that the town could go forward with larger projects for the community, including roads, industrial park, and other items. So generally, there are many loan programs out there. I am astonished at how much loan funding is available. I sat on several boards like Kennebec Valley Council of Governments, the Somerset Economic Development Corporation, and others, and there's not enough people coming in, so they have monies and they're looking for people. And so, you know, we will give all that information to people and they'll either decide to go or not. But generally, people don't want to, you know, overextend themselves, or by the time they come to the town, they're overextended. There are a lot of tax cuts, but again, for some businesses, there just isn't the resources that really should be available to them. But in certain sectors that the state has identified, there are a lot of resources available. So just to close up, We do have economic development packages upstairs, and anytime anyone comes in, we put them together based upon what they need. Run out a few handouts. We do less than we used to because so much is online now. And that's very helpful. So we have a lot of links to the different sources. They say not to have the people go off your website, but the resources, for all the loan programs and all the tax incentives are at the State of Maine site, FAME, United States Rural Agency, Development Agency. In the town, just to finish, the town does have the ability for the tax increment financing, which the industrial park lots all have, which is a wonderful resource because we don't have to go through the whole process and set it up for new lots. We already have it. And there may be other tax increment financing districts will want to do in the future. We did one for the solar project on Route 2 because it would not have gone forward otherwise. And these can be intensive negotiation sessions to make sure that everybody's needs are covered and everybody comes out ahead. So just to close, if anyone has any questions, I'll make sure I'm at all of your meetings from now on to help you, especially with the next item coming up, which is the comp plan. Thank you.
I just have one question. Makes me a little smarter. Sometimes you see businesses come in, and like now you're saying that basically housing should that be an accurate statement?
There is plenty of housing, but it's old housing, and most people would like to, like to have a new house.
So the home sales is decreasing right now. Now that's common across the U.S. by the way. It's spotty here and there. You'll see that. You'll see this. That you're gonna hear about Portland. It's going nuts down there. But really overall. Inventory is very low, and you can see it is very low in Pittsfield right now.
So what is the benefit of bringing a business in, giving them all these tax breaks to come here? They get here, they don't live here. So what are they doing for us?
Some of them live here. We've had some move to town and then start a business, or later on move to town. But there's not a lot of housing opportunities if you wanted to bring in, let's say, 35 employees. The houses are not there unless people move into the older ones and rehab them. And some people like that, but we don't have the new housing that a lot of the other communities have.
Exactly. So my point is, shouldn't we be trying to do a subdivision somewhere? I mean,
well, this is why we're
bringing the business in. It's doing nothing to the.
I don't know what the subdivision ordinance is, but I would just say explore that a little bit. I said I was involved in this one up by the hospital as indirectly involved, dealing with prices and type of projects, buildings up there. And that didn't happen wasn't because of the developer. But there's plenty of paper lots up there right now. But there may be other areas that maybe the planning board says, hey, maybe this is a good spot for a subdivision or a development of a certain type of home, possibly. And I'm just telling you, I'm just throwing ideas out. Right. Because it's hard to bring a business in and have people live in town. If people want to live in town, great, but there's very little selection, and people are picky.
Especially if they're moving.
No, very good point. We should definitely look at this item. And we've also talked about looking at the lodging. We had promoted B&Bs for some time and actually got a couple more set up. People went forward and did them, but we're down on that now, and it's something that would be important. So there's a few items to look at. So hopefully the planning board could look at the subdivision ordinance. You haven't had a major subdivision here for decades. In other communities, I remember Herman, we had 5 or 6 of them, which then, because the houses were available, the businesses came and it all worked together there. So that would be something to check out in the future. Thank you.
Okay, moving along, there was another item under new business, and I'm going to suggest that we table it because we do have other items to act on tonight. So, the discussion about the comprehensive plan, I think that's not pressing tonight, so we can put that aside.
Do you need a motion to table?
No, I'm just going to take and use the gavel, okay, because I think sometimes that needs to happen. Under all business, first item under all business, the proposed changes, this is the tiny house deal. I think you've got some information in the packet, and what we're doing tonight is voting on this to send to an ordinance change. Oh, no.
If you want to have tiny homes, the first thing you'd have to do is.
We have to have a.
Well, you have to change the use tables.
Yep.
To allow, we have minimum square footage size of homes, and you'd have to change that as the first step.
And I think it was from 750 square feet to 500, is that what it is?
Well, the way I typed it up in the charts for a proposal was that you eliminate them. You eliminate the size requirement.
Okay.
But then the thing that really ought to be addressed is, what are they set on? Do they just park them on wheels?
I was just gonna ask. I mean, we can shrink the houses, but, you know, they still have.
Do they have to have a foundation like a home, or do you treat them like a mobile home? Because no one in the state seems to know the answer to that. I'm a member of an organization that shares thoughts, and it's really cloudy as to what they require for foundation.
But if they sit on an axle, aren't they still a trailer or a camper?
They're a tiny home. We have the definition here, and they're not really like a camper, or because they're year round.
Yeah. Well, a camper.
Klemensky's. What are your wishes with this item? Moves up to 60.
There are, I have a question.
Yeah.
So there are other classifications for homes other than tiny homes, right? There's a mobile home, there's a permanent structure home, right? And each of those different types of structures has specific qualifying elements to it.
That would be to foundations, and
right.
Mobile homes don't have to have foundations. They can set on a concrete pad.
But they can have wheels, right? They have to take the wheels off.
They normally do, I think, take the wheels off, but it's not a requirement.
Okay.
So it would seem to me that rather than trying to classify a tiny home as something separate from one, like separate and distinct from one of those other classifications, because some of them will have wheels on them and some of them will want to sit in one place but just be very small, those other classifications could also apply, right? So if you have a tiny home that has wheels and it's a mobile home, it needs to meet the qualifications or the stipulations of a tiny home and a mobile home. If it's a permanent structure and it has a foundation, it needs to meet the stipulations of the tiny home and the permanent structure.
Yes, I think they more closely would resemble a mobile home. I would think that, that you'd want to see them that they had skirting on them so that they didn't look like they were just a trailer with the.
Right, but a tiny home isn't necessarily built on a trailer. Right, it could just be a small house.
I suppose that is the case.
Like the ones on Route 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Can a tiny home be considered an RV?
No, I don't believe so, because
It's on wheels and you park in your driveway, and what's the difference between that and a fifth wheel?
And these are all things I think we need to explore more as far as tiny homes go.
So what I'm getting an indication is that we are not ready to make any decisions here. So we can table this also?
Yeah, I think we need more. I need more definition.
Yeah.
Actually.
It's new enough so that there doesn't seem to be a consensus of what has to happen.
Yeah. Well, I can see what a tiny home is, but I want to know how it differs from other definitions that we already have for mobile homes. I mean, you can actually take a camper and live in it year round if you want to.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
But isn't there you can't park an RV in your driveway for X amount of time?
There's no law that governs that.
I thought there was.
We talked about doing something
I guess
about that here a while ago.
Yeah.
It was decided we didn't want to do it.
I thought there was also. Okay. So we have more to discuss here. Okay.
So I guess the question on it is that right now as proposed, it's about changes to tables P and Q, right, the charts, table P and table Q of chapter 13. I guess the question is, would we be better because of the unique piece of this and the door that we could be opening by changing those to have just a separate ordinance on homes on I don't know what, I don't want to say non-conforming homes because they would have to conform by the time that we're done with it, but to have like a tiny home ordinance.
Well, this ordinance from the International Residential Building Code basically talks about the inside of them and so forth. It doesn't talk about what they have for
Right.
a foundation.
Right, yeah, I mean, this isn't an ordinance, right, that's like the definitions, but in terms of how we would, kind of the discussion of
Appendix B of a
delineating.
teeny home is what it is.
What's that?
It's appendix B.
Right. Are there, in the group that you've been talking with, Steve, has there been any model ordinances that are being used? Is it something we could request from KV Cog to see whether they have any
We
information
could
on
do that.
Or
I've got some
consensus
information on
of-
model ordinance?
So what happens if you have someone who wants to build a home out of an old railroad car? No wheels, or wheels?
Well, as it exceeds square footage.
Or
Huh?
connex box.
They do.
Yeah.
It would be
They do 'em, yeah.
it would come under the residential codes of the Natural Building Code. For insulation and so forth and so on.
Can I direct a question to Gary?
Yeah.
Do tiny homes impact values of houses in the neighborhood? As opposed to Pittsfield or Portland?
I've had that question about 6 months ago, I estimate. It's really undetermined on that. Okay, Portland went through that a little bit too,
Yeah.
just recently. So I don't know the answer to that.
This
Okay.
location,
But it certainly is something that, if you need a comp, those comps are hard to find. But really, you see a lot of people building smaller units. You see it all over TV, but in Maine too, that happens. Does IRC have anything, Steve, on that? Have they come up with an appendix? Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I have.
From IRC?
Here's an extra copy if you want it, Gary. I'll get it.
I mean, I might have a connection that maybe can help me,
I don't see why that would affect the value of it. I mean, imagine someone's yard, well kept, maybe they've got a cute little fence, they've got flowers, and it's really pretty, and it's a tiny, tiny house.
But I heard it, I know it was done in Bucksport or Camden, some places, Portland, they were talking about that.
Yeah, they were, and I don't know, I can get information for you on that, that's something, I can definitely get that. But, these things are pretty new, and if the IRC has an appendix, it tells you what to do, it probably tells you what to do, just like.
It's not to address foundations. It talks about, stairways and room heights and all of that, but it doesn't address what the foundation requires.
I think the one.
Yeah, because it falls back on the regular code, that's why.
Yeah.
That
The
might
ones
That's
that
how
Chris is
it is.
building, those are the concrete slabs, right?
Right.
well maintained.
Which is, I think, the trend. Because when you get to be a certain age like I am, it's kind of hard to go up and down the stairs. So you don't want a basement, but that's beside the point.
Yes, thank you. So the tiny homes, once all the details were worked out, could really help the town with the areas where it's wet, and you really shouldn't have a cellar, which is in several areas in town. But it also could help with the subdivision that's at the top of the hill by the hospital, where there's tiny lots, and so it's tried to be sold so many times and it hasn't gone through. Maybe somebody could make it financially work, if they had the little lots and the tiny homes.
But what about some of the houses down in town, can you put a tiny home on one of those?
Yeah,
I mean, is
that's
that something
also-
your organization can look into,
To do what?
Well, I don't know, you know.
Well, yeah, remember,
tear the house down and then make a lot of it.
we're dealing with private property, so if somebody wants to buy a house that they wanna tear down, the question's gonna come to you guys, or to Steve, I guess, can I put a tiny home there? You know, and if you're dealing with the IRC or a NUBAC, you got room sizes that don't even have requirements, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and you're done, now it's done, it's not
But
happening.
these would supersede some of the ones for. a
Right, if
commercial house.
that's right, that's correct, because it has an appendix to it, you know, so you're gonna follow that, and whatever it doesn't have is gonna default to IRC.
So, you know, right now, basically, there's no place in town for them, unless they're at least 750 square feet, and that's out in the country. For instance, in Birchwood Park area up there, the Chinbro subdivision from years ago. Well, you ruined my train of thought. I can't remember what I was talking about.
I think these tiny homes are something just again to think about, you know. I think I've sold one tiny house, you know. But you go closer to the coast, and I've got agents down there that do sell those, you know.
Yeah. So if the first step in permitting them would be to change our minimum lot requirement, minimum house size requirement. That would be step one, and then we would have to figure out what we want for foundations, and they should be built according to this.
I think I'd look at IRC and their appendix and read that thoroughly and see what that is, and then see where you go from there, you know.
So you're not looking for any action tonight?
No, I'm not on that one.
Okay.
We can table it if you want, and I'll get some more information.
Do I hear a motion to table this?
I'll make a motion.
Point of order, you have to, I'm pretty sure you have to take up the item before you can table it.
We just did.
Okay.
Motion was by,
We're not under Robert's rules here. We simply make it up as we go.
Okay.
Hey, the council can do it, so.
who made the motion again?
Who made the motion? Royce.
And the second?
Mo, and what we're doing is tabling any further discussion on small house. So that's kind of the discussion.
Well, who was the second?
Mo.
Mo? Thank you.
All those-
You gotta be here next month.
Who?
Because we both have to be here because we have to untable it. We both have to be here.
You'll be okay till November, right now.
I will not be here in November.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
To the table?
Aye.
Table.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have one other item that has come in tonight.
Last week, we were out and we approved Joe LeBrec's setback for his home on the lake, or his camp on the lake. His back as far as practical, and we basically determined that would be determined by the location of the septic tank. Well, he told us, he figured the septic tank was so close to the building, and then he found out that the access hole, which is normally on one end, was on the other end, and he needs 2 more feet to be the proper distance from the septic tank. So he needs to go 2 feet closer to the water. And I kind of explained it here, and then I offered a proposed motion if somebody thought that ought to happen.
Well, it's still further away from the water than it was, right?
Yes, it is. It's just 2 feet closer, but.
Yeah.
Brent?
Yeah, Mr. LeBrec has contacted me regarding this project. I'm gonna have to recuse myself from voting.
I'll make a motion that we give him that 2 extra feet.
Is there a second?
I'm satisfied with the way this motion is written.
I don't think I read that.
There's one right there.
Oh, this was here when we got here?
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
it.
I did.
So that was a motion I suggested so that we can get it recorded in the registry of deeds.
Hey, have a minute, I just want to review drawings from last. Having a note there.
And he's not going 2 feet closer than where it is now, is he?
No, he's not.
He's just, okay.
Do you want to make that as one of the?
Yes. Want me to read it?
Yes, please.
So,
Map 20, Lot 4, replanning board, shoreline zoning setback approval of 5/13/19. Owner Joseph McGrath has discovered that the existing septic tank. You want me to read all that?
No, just the motion.
Proposed motion by me, seconded by, that the 11-foot distance from the control line to the lakeside of the camp that runs from the 6x6 concrete monument to the 6x6 concrete monument labeled S, I don't know, 04-2408W, shown on the plan submitted, be reduced to 9 feet.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I just would like a moment, given that this is new,
Okay.
to just kind of take a look. Yeah. So I'm looking at the notes that we had from last week, right? And then 7 feet from the control line be reduced to 9. We make a motion on it being measured off of this line.
Would you like me to measure it?
If it's 2 feet closer to the lake, or to the water,
There's a
from where we
imaginary line
approved it, we're still,
monument to
there's that steep embankment there.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's anything.
And
that
he's
should be
still
considered.
further away from the lake than the
We're still
existing
further.
camp is right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
11 feet back.
If the water gets up there, the water's already in town
Can't
anyways.
do it if you close to the septic tank, you're asking for that to reduce to 9.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Anybody else wanna look?
Nope.
Lonnie, all set?
I'm all set, yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Second. And we got it.
I already got the second?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Well, no, Simone, I guess.
Simone.
Simone said.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Steve, any other items?
Look at my schedule, it just disappeared. No, we can vote to adjourn.
Well, no, we'll go around the room first. Hold on. Anything you want to bring up?
No.
No, anything you want to bring up?
It was a good meeting, I thought.
Okay. Royce, anything you want to bring up? Vaughn?
Sure. Question, Jan, do you approve our agendas before they come to us?
Kind of what's happened unofficially, and that's what I was going to kind of talk about. Steve will give me a call and say, here's what's on the agenda, a couple of days beforehand. So it's been informal, but I think we need to formalize that process.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if, I'd like to see that, given that it's your charge, I believe, as the chair to do
Yeah, I
that.
think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because I think, in a case like tonight, because of some of the other items that came up, good items for discussion, but, yeah, I think so if you've got something that you want to get on the agenda, we'll pick a day that it's got to be in by.
That'd be great.
We have that anyway. We have the days when submittals are due.
Yep.
The only thing we vary on once in a while is if there's something really important like this, getting this guy can't, I'll just go. We can bring it up on the other items that may come before the board.
Great.
I think we really need to reserve the right to do that.
Yeah, certainly.
Brent, anything?
That's the end of the tape. We got to
Good,
quit.
Mr. So I got you clean here. Go ahead, Mr. Watson. Would you like to?
Two things. One, I think the point about the agenda is a good one. I might also suggest that the planning board accept the agenda as proposed at the start of each meeting.
And that's what we're going to do.
And secondly, I actually have a question for Catherine regarding, because I know that the town council, there's a rule that if 3 or more council members are in communication, it's considered a public document or a public meeting. Does that rule extend to town committees, the planning board?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted clarity on that.
Yes.
And that's a state law?
That's the interpretation of the public proceedings law by the Maine Municipal Association
Okay. Thank you.
and other groups, other lawyers.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you.
pretty safe to stay away from 3.
Right.
Is
That's all I've got.
Okay, I would encourage, if you are in town next Wednesday afternoon, Steve is going to be giving a speech next Wednesday afternoon
This woman was my grandmother in the speech.
about his grandma. But if you haven't seen it, or I'm sure it's pretty hard to avoid, I mean, the train depot is really kind of long. And we don't need rain tonight, because that's going
We're gonna have it whether we need it or
Right, that's where we are, so we hope to see you at as many activities as possible next week. And on that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mo?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? Brent?
I'll second it.
Okay, hearing no opposition to the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. You did a great job. Thank you, Tim, for coming.
Jordan?
Yeah, we should.
Hearing.
Right, wasn't Carl?
Yes.